Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on a couple myths that have kind of popped up recently, and that is whether or not the FFAR got a nerf, and if the Bruiser grip is still helping you out with vertical recoil, and when you should be using that specific attachment. If you enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, just double check, make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you'll be up to date on these types of things, because if anything changes, I will post a video on it as soon as I'm aware of. So let's go ahead and get into the specific example. For whatever reason, what ends up happening, this happens quite often, is somebody will say, hey, you know what? The gun feels different. And then what will happen is everyone says, well, you know, if they said it feels different, then it's different. And it happens all the time in the community. Is somebody's prominent, they say, hey, gun feels different. Then everyone kind of piles it on. And then you end up with a dozen TikToks saying, hey, there were stealth changes. Sometimes changes actually happen, but unless you're actually seeing visible changes in the game and you're actually able to measure that difference, it's very hard to say whether or not something was changed. That's why it's very important to go into the game and see if it was actually any different. For the vast majority, you won't notice all of these changes unless they're pretty obvious. Fire rate changes, damage changes, pretty obvious. Aim down sight, a little bit harder unless it's dramatic. Recoil, bullet velocity, these are things that are definitely noticeable while using the weapon once you give enough playtime, especially if you have a lot of playtime in the game. So with that, let's go ahead and give you a few examples of what I'm talking about. Earlier, I mentioned, hey, why do people think the FFAR was nerfed? What do people think actually changed? And most of the time, people just say it got nerfed, and they're not very specific about what changed. And there's 30 plus things I could test on every gun. ADS speed, strafe speed, movement speed in general, fire rate, damage, TTK based off those values, bullet velocity, range, and then modifying with various attachments, you end up with way too many options to test, and it makes it very impractical to find out what's going wrong. So somebody said, didn't the Bruiser grip get patched? Maybe they haven't changed their setups because it got nerfed. Somebody else says, nope, recoil's same for 2 days ago. He goes, well, use the field agent grip instead of the Bruiser grip. Bruiser got patched. All right, cool. I didn't know about a Bruiser getting patched. Hey, True Game Data and JGOD, why do I keep hearing about a Bruiser nerf? Any truth to this? There are rumors going around that Raven fixed some of the Cold War attachments, specifically the Bruiser grip, Ranger and Task Force barrels. Truth? And then Bruiser grip fixed for Cold War ARs. Would you recommend Bruiser grip or field agent grip for recoil on the DMR? So the best barrel is to use Ranger. What is the field grip? Bruiser grip. Okay, the Bruiser grip fixed? Question marks. Is the Bruiser grip fixed on the FFAR still the best one? It's like, it just goes on and on. Hey, is the Bruiser grip still the play on Cold War ARs? So I get messages pretty regularly. This is just me searching Bruiser JGOD YT, and they pop up back to back to back. A lot of people asking. I went through and I wanted to test a few different things, because if the Bruiser grip is the issue, then it would be easy to identify, because it's supposed to help melee, you know, quickness or whatever the heck it says. But we've noticed it helps vertical recoil somewhere between 15 to 20%, depending on the magnitude of the vertical recoil to begin with. Obviously, if it goes kind of the side, it's a little bit harder to measure because there's other factors going on with the horizontal stabilization and recoil that happens. So we get the base one here. And then I fire the weapon. Pretty much I fire the weapon. Oh, it's loading. All right, cool. So I fire the weapon. We get a recoil pattern. Pretty much it's on there. Pretty straightforward. We're going to zoom up these, and I'm going to have them clear as day. I went through, did the task force as well. I wanted to test the task force. So you can see the task force will tighten up the horizontal recoil, but it allows it to have a little bit more vertical recoil. And you can see when it looks at this scatter plot, the task force is dramatically increasing that vertical recoil, but the horizontal is tightening it up. It's almost a complete vertical line. We go to the Bruiser grip by itself. We can see that this one compared to over here, you can see that it is considerably tighter. So ideally, what you'd want to do if you go for the field agent, it's going to help out. You can see how these go. This is the base on the left. Then we have the task force. Then I have the reinforced heavy right here in the middle. And then I have the Bruiser. So you can see that pretty much the base one and the reinforced heavy are pretty much the same. The task force had a little bit of tightening up. And then we have the Bruiser right next to it, which is obviously less. And I specifically chose 14 meters for specific reasons, because Exclusive Ace just did a video about a week and a half ago right after probably, you know, so everything is pretty recent and people are expecting that this change happen within this current week. So I went through and I referenced that as a comparison. So we'll have that as a comparison. And then I also did field agent grip, which you can see right here. It doesn't look like it's doing a ton, but it is there nonetheless. So I actually took those screenshots and I took the screenshots from Exclusive Ace's video, and pretty much you can see that these line up with these. Pretty much almost identical. Obviously, there's still slight variation because the weapons don't have a lot of stabilization. It's not like you're able to put on attack laser like you can with Modern Warfare weapons. So you end up with a lot of issues where the patterns can be a little inconsistent, but you can see that they're essentially doing the exact same thing. Field Agent looks a little bit wonky, but like I said, recoil is still pretty much on the same path. And these weren't like manipulated weird. It's just kind of what they end up looking like when you put the red dots or the red or green dots on the specific recoil patterns. It's kind of how it lines up. You can see there's no difference there. So in terms of those specific barrels, the Bruiser is still helping with vertical recoil. Nothing new, and that's as of today, as of me making this video. So it's like, well, what else could change? Let's go ahead and take a look at damage, fire rate, because that determines TTK. If recoil is not different, damage not different, rate of fire is not different, that means TTK is not different. It means there's no difference in those particular aspects. Could there be something else? Yes. There could be 30 other things that we could test. But in this particular case, it doesn't look like any of those things were modified. So let's go ahead and look at damage so you can see the comparison there. So pretty straightforward. If you use true game data to kind of check the thing, obviously he didn't update his site recently to reflect any changes that were stealth changes, because then he would have made a video about it and then we would have known about it, right? Like obviously it would have been common knowledge. So right here, I've done a total of 1247 damage. I go through over here, I look at a target, and as soon as I shoot them, I'm trying to aim for the chest, so you'll go ahead and see this play out here. I go through, I line up my shot, make sure I only land one bullet, I aim, get a chest shot, and then the damage value that we have here is 1280, which is a difference of 33, which is exactly what it shows on his site. So everything's matching. Nothing's been changed in that sense. Over here, I line up a couple headshots. I end up getting a double headshot right there. It comes through. We look at it here. It is 1370, which is difference of 90. Headshots are 45. 45 plus 45 is 90. So no difference in damage values. We can do the same thing for a single. And then I did a toe shot here, just so you can see it's a toe shot. I hit the toe. Boom. 1445. Difference here is 30. So that's what it does. 30, 33, 45. Same damage value. Well, now let's look at the rate of fire. All right. We start it right at 0. You can see the bullets. I move one frame and the bullets change. Well, that's 2 frames because I'm not zoomed in enough. Let's go 1 frame and the bullets change 1 frame. And we continue all the way until the ammo essentially depletes to 0. And then we end up with the fire rate a little over 900 when you compute 3.27 seconds with 50 rounds to fire. Ends up being the same fire rate. So there's essentially no changes when it comes to the FFAR, as far as we can tell with the testing that would make sense to test. I know it's kind of weird to make a video saying, hey, essentially nothing's changed, but I've been getting spam like crazy about it. There's way more messages than I showed in the beginning of the video, but I wanted to point out that unless you know something specific has changed, it's very difficult to test, because I tested what would make sense to test based off what people suggested. Hey, you know what, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's that. It looks like no difference. So the Bruiser is still helping out, right? So what you got to be aware of, if it depends on the gun's recoil, whether or not you want to use a field agent or a Bruiser on a rifle or a tactical rifle. Main reason for that is because if the gun has mainly vertical recoil, almost no horizontal, no side to side, like the M16, it only has a 3-round burst where it goes boom, 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 straight up. So field agent grip, if it's only going to help 10% horizontal, 10% vertical, just throwing out percents, and then the Bruiser is going to help out 20% vertical but no horizontal, then why would you go with the field agent if you're not getting any benefit from the actual horizontal? You would just go with the one that helps with vertical. In this particular case, there is side to side, but if you use the task force, that's diminished. So it might make more sense to use a task force with the Bruiser, or if you want literally none and get a look, you get what I'm saying, is that it's very case dependent. If I was using a different barrel than the task force, 100% on the FFAR, I'm going to run the field agent because it has that little wonky shape recoil. So at range, it's going to be hard to hit shots with that because that side to side is way harder to manage than just straight vertical. I could just pull down on my thumbstick or drag my mouse down or back so that closer to me, and it'll manage that recoil. You just have to do it more or less depending on, but side to side, that's a weird recoil pattern to really adjust to. So unless people are point blank, you're going to have some issues. So, Bruiser still works, so it's kind of got to be a case by case. You got to know the recoil pattern of the weapon. Try both and see what works best for you. So to tack onto that, the FFAR will likely get a nerf because it is very dominant. Maybe they're going to remove it as floor weapon once Season 2 happens. But as of now, the FFAR is still as dominant as it was couple weeks ago. No changes. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, just double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. If you want to stay up to date or ask questions, definitely go ahead and check out my Twitter, where I'm pretty active on a regular basis. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.